All right. But sometimes you can get too close to the trigger. This is the video I was supposed to make, but I ended up making a suicide video. So sometimes you can get too close to the trigger. So that's basically people who are so close to the trigger, it's you can sense this desperation to experience a state of not being triggered. And I get it, because it's this very obvious like desperation, like someone's drowning, right? They're drowning in the falseness, right? They're drowning in it because it feels so true, right? So, which is really shitty. It's a very shitty experience to experience. So they don't have a point of reference. There's no like theory of relativity, like in that sense. They haven't been here, right? They're just here. So they don't know what it's like to be here. And you can't really explain that to someone. They kind of just have to experience it, right? So, and I've had many clients go through this, and I have many friends, right? I say many friends. I have like 2 friends I talk to every day, and that's it. I have one of them who has been stuck in fight or flight, and it's just not, it's having physical manifestations. He's having a hard time digesting food and stuff like that, and it makes sense, But sometimes you can just get too close to the trigger, and really there's 2 things you can do. One to me is the art, the other one is the science. And when I say that, this is what I mean, so you guys can understand what I'm saying. The science is what will fix it without the art. The art just helps fix it, right? So for example, you have fasting and then you have herbs, okay? Fasting is a science, okay? If you stop putting bullshit in your mouth, you'll stop creating dis-ease in the physical body, right? That's the science. So you're fixing the root issue. The herbs are the art, because if you keep putting shit in your mouth, and now you're just putting in herbs with it, it's not going to make it any better, right? But the art enhances the science when done together, okay? So when you fast and do herbs, now you're going to a level that fasting alone cannot bring you to, okay? So that's what I mean by that. So the science addresses the root, and then the art enhances it, but it won't solve the root, okay? So there's 2 things you can do. One's an art and one's a science, okay? The science is removing the subconscious restraint. That's the work I do. Where am I getting like all these bites from? I'm like bit the fuck up. So the science, the science is the subconscious root, okay? Basically, you're making the unconscious conscious. That's like subconscious work. That's all it is, by the way. There you go. But now, a skilled practitioner that can make the unconscious conscious is worth their weight in gold. It can literally change your life. That's what I'm in the process of doing, is becoming, more and more skilled in this practice of just making the unconscious conscious in your life. That's the science, okay? The art is bringing okayness to the unokayness, because the unconscious has not been made conscious yet. Which, by the way, you can still do once it's conscious. Just because it's conscious, just because you make a story conscious, then you eventually dissolve it, right? Not just by making it conscious. You don't dissolve it by making it conscious. You have to disrupt it. You have to I lost my train of thought, and these birds sound super serene. Hopefully you can hear them as well. What was I saying? Making the unconscious conscious doesn't dissolve it. You have to disrupt it, okay? And then integrate it, okay? And even then, you can still have the sensation of not okayness, even though it's been dissolved, because it has been vibrating through your body, quite literally, on a cellular level, right? Because it's sound, because it's a story. Stories are made of words are made of letters are made of sound, and sound's made of vibration, frequency, all of that woo-woo stuff, okay? So you are literally, quite literally vibrating on a cellular level. So back to the example I used in another video, it's just like ripples, right? The story is dropping into your mind, and it's creating ripples throughout the body, on a cellular level. Just because you drop it and then you stop dropping it, you're no longer continually dropping it, it takes time for the ripples to flatten out. Does that make sense? So just because I pluck the object and you're no longer dropping it, now it's going to take time. And you're going to be like, wait, what the fuck? Like, why is this happening? Why am I still having a sensation? And it's just like, because it's going to take some time, right? The sound is bouncing through the waves of your body, right? The blood, the tissue, all of this stuff. It's quite literally vibrating through your body. It's very fascinating, by the way. But back to the main point of the video, which is sometimes you can just get too close to the trigger. So someone who has not experienced this new reference point, they won't understand that you'll eventually get to a place to where you're not triggerless. You still have triggers, but now whenever you experience them, even if it's new and it's a trigger you've never experienced, you have the skill of space. Okay? And this might be hard for someone to understand who hasn't experienced this reality, right? But it's like, for me, I don't wake up in fight or flight anymore, which is beautiful. You know, it's amazing. And it's just, it's honestly, I'm starting to get accustomed to it, you know? And it's like, wow, people have been living like this. Like, dude, like, my life would have been so different, you know? All the things I got in trouble for, right? It just wouldn't have happened. But that's my curriculum, you know? I'm not regretful of that. I actually love it, right? Because I would not be making this video now, you know? I would not be doing the work that I'm doing now. So I would pay that price any day, right? And that's another thing, is that people just don't know they would pay the price because they just don't know the payoff, right? If you knew the payoff, you'd pay the price every time. But that's the beautiful thing with life. Like, what fun would it be if you knew, right? Like the whole I don't know if I can overcome this. It's like, what fun would it be if you knew you could? You know? And then you eventually overcome it, and then you start laughing back on it, and you understand. It's like, oh wow, I needed that. You know what I'm saying? So anyways, they don't know that they'll eventually get to a place that no matter what triggers them, they'll be able to hold space for themselves. And I'd assert that if this technology that I speak of, or this experience that I speak of, if suicide victims could experience this, you know, I think suicide would not, it would just dramatically drop. But yeah, so just know that regardless of the trigger right now, and as panicked as you are and fearful as you are, it's like you'll eventually get to a place to where you're still going to get triggered later on in life, but you'll just come to such a space where there's just a certain amount of okayness in you, and sometimes you can get too close to it. Sometimes it's like, you know, that false identity that you believe you are pops up again, you know, through some circumstance that reveals it, and it's just like, you're going to respond to it much differently because you've experienced okayness, right? You've experienced space from the trigger, right? But you know, it happens. Like, sometimes you can just forget the rules of the game of life when you're too close to the trigger. Sometimes that shit just happens, you know? It happens to me, you know? It's been happening a lot less lately because I just catch it. I'm becoming very aware of it. But yeah. So if you are in this space where you just haven't experienced space, it's okay. Like, you are eventually going to. That's another thing about suicide, is that they're making a decision based off of a perception that can change, but they don't know that it can change because they've tried changing it for so long, and they've had no luck, and they're like, fuck, like they just think they're stuck. You know, so it makes sense when they make that decision, because it's like anybody, you know, it's like anybody would too. You know, if anyone had the perception that a person who experienced suicide had, you too would commit suicide. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's just like, but a lot of people just seem to understand this and call them selfish, and it's just like, that's actually really selfish, you know, because they're lacking the ability to see that they too make decisions based off of perceptions. They're just not as permanent as suicide. You know, people who call people that commit suicide selfish, they don't realize that, which is, it's kind of ironic. But yeah. So hopefully you enjoyed. Peace.